And it's time for the Rob Staton Show as we broadcast from the Limback Lumber Studios, the Puck Sports Studios built by Limback Lumber. Mr. Staton joins us every single week as we talk Seahawks football, all brought to you by Superior Linen Service, which is committed to delivering the highest quality products and service to the greater Puget Sound area. Get a free quote today at suplinen.com. Give them a call, 253-383-2636. Click on that QR code there on your screen. It's going to take you right to Superior Linen, and then you get all their fine deals there at suplinen.com. Also, you can watch us on YouTube and Twitter, and the Puck Sports mobile app is out now. So if you don't want to watch our pretty faces anymore, you just want to listen to us in your car, walking around, the Puck Sports mobile app is up in the App Store for Apple users right now. It will be available for the Android users soon on Google Play. Got to still work out some kinks there, but for you iPhone users, the Puck Sports mobile app is now available. You can listen to the show as it airs every day live at 10 a.m. You can stream it there on your phone. All right, Mr. Rob Staton, it wasn't the prettiest game in the world, okay, against the Dolphins. Bad quarterback play, bad pants by Mike McDaniel. He looks like he's drugged out on ecstasy on the sideline, but a win is a win.
Yeah, what I was going to say is I have got the app, so if I can work out how to download it, then everybody else can as well. So there we go. Yeah, look, it was not a classic. It's a good win though. I think one of the things that I really wanted to see from that game was just a really comprehensive win. You're playing Skylar Thompson. We talked about this last week. The Seahawks should win. It doesn't have to be pretty, but they need to win the game. And to win it by 21 points in the end is exactly like if you'd have said it to anybody before the game, the Seahawks are going to win by 21 points, you would go, yeah, that's really good. Then you actually watch the game. You have two quarters where basically the refs take over. It's just one flag after another. There's no points scored. The Seahawks offense was stalling. They had some bad moments there. It kind of gives you that. You want more. When you're 17-3 up after the first quarter, you're thinking, right, okay, what's this going to be? Is it going to be 40 points to 0 or 40 points to 3 or whatever? And then when it doesn't happen, you can be tempted to sort of think a little bit negatively about it. I'm happy they just got the job done. They won the game, and they move on. What I will say, though, Puck, is I have this nagging feeling that eventually the Seahawks are going to play an opponent and it's not going to go well. That it's not just that they're going to lose, that it could be a bit of an eye-opener because there are still, especially with this offensive line, that are really concerning. So I think this game against Detroit is the perfect game to have next. Can they go there and be very competitive and put up a good fight in Detroit? Or could this be a bit of a game where you realize, okay, you're not playing Skylar Thompson, Jacoby Brissett, and Bo Nix this week?
And I agree. I agree with all of it. And sometimes some fans get offended when you point that out. And it's like, well, they both things can be true. I think the team has played well. I think that it's static. They're off to a 3-0 start. This couldn't have gone any better for Mike Macdonald and his new staff, especially with the teams in your division who are banged up. And now you've got 3 weeks into the season, a 2-game lead on these teams. And I don't think that's going to stay. I don't know how many people think that that's going to remain, but it is right now what you have. But they have been benefited by who they've played. The rookie quarterback, a journeyman quarterback, a backup quarterback who's not all that good, and then he gets knocked out and you're playing a third-string quarterback. And that's okay. They've taken advantage of that. In the past, when everyone's using the same comp. In years past, when a Colt McCoy has come in, they've lost those games. And Colt McCoy and others have looked good. Mason Rudolph last year. And so you're right. There is room for improvement because this is a defense last week that gave up almost 190 yards on the ground to a one-dimensional football team. And so there's some stuff to clean up, but I guess the glass half full, right? Because you and I are both glass half full people, all right?
Of course.
Is that they're 3-0 and there's still lots for them to improve on.
Yeah, and I think if to take a glass half full perspective on it, it's really good to see Derick Hall playing the way that he is. He is somebody who did absolutely nothing as a rookie, and when you spend such a high pick on a pass rusher like that, you want to have a reason to have any kind of hope that pick's going to work out. And watching him last year, he looked. It was more LJ Collier than Bruce Irvin, let's say. And this year, he looks like a totally different player. He's playing with power. He seems to be playing within his skill set. I think it's quite interesting when Mike Macdonald talks about you are what you are. Derick Hall is a power rusher. Use that to be your main trait rather than trying to be something you're not. And they seem to fit a role in for him that he's now got 3 sacks in 3 games. So has Boye Mafe. When you spend 2 high second-round picks, you have to really hope that those 2 guys are going to end up being a nice partnership off the edge. And they're doing all of this and producing as well as they are without Uchenna and Wosu rotating in. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. I really hope that Leonard Williams is not going to miss any time with this rib injury. Ditto Byron Murphy with his hamstring, because the line is such a positive for the Seahawks. It will be so crushing if the depth is going to be tested, especially now when you're going to be playing the Detroit Lions. So that's definitely a positive. And then what I would say offensively as well, I wasn't that happy with the way that I didn't think they played smart offense for a couple of quarters yesterday, especially the way the offensive line played. But, seeing DK Metcalf get that catch over Kendall Fuller, that's exactly the kind of play that me and you talked about, the something that we want to see him make. It's the kind of play that the Mike Evans, the Julio Jones, people like that do make. He hasn't been making those kind of plays. So seeing that was probably the most exciting, most enjoyable play of the game for me, to see DK Metcalf making a catch like that.
And I think that his continued play, what we've seen so far in the first 3 weeks of the season, it just seems like a more concentrated effort to get DK the ball, to make him more of a focal point of the offense. You see when they are given just an extra second of time to throw the football, Rob, but the offensive line can just give him another second, that double move in which he scores, the 70-yard touchdown, where you see a guy catch a football and then it looks like 2 defenders are right on him. And then his ability with his size to pull away like a Ferrari is just there's just is not another wide receiver out there like him. And that's why he's just got to force feed the ball to him.
He's unique. He's uniquely sized with that speed combination. He's an incredible player. He's the kind of player that when other teams draft that player at the end of round 2, they wonder what the hell was our GM doing, sleeping at the wheel when that guy was available. So for the Seahawks to trade up and go and get him, it's one of the best draft picks they've had in recent history. It's an incredible move. A lot of people criticize the Seahawks. Like, why didn't they draft Creed Humphrey? And it's a fair argument. Why didn't they draft him? But why didn't 30 other teams draft him as well to let the Chiefs get him? And this is the same with DK Metcalf. Why didn't other teams, when you think of some of the receivers that went ahead of DK Metcalf, it seems just totally ridiculous at this point that he lasted to the very end of round 2. So well done to the Seahawks for making that move. He is a terrific player. Look, Puck, he is showing everything that he needed to show right now to get a huge payday in the offseason. And I have to say, with the way that he's playing, the Seahawks would be mad not to secure him for the rest of the peak of his career.
Okay, so what do you make of this right now? We touched on it briefly here. They're 3-0. Stack wins right now because of what's happening in their division. How much credit defensively in these first 3 weeks do you give to them as a defensive unit? And then how much do you say of the credit pie, right? Do you like pie? I'm a big pie guy. I like pie over cake.
Who doesn't?
Okay, I'm just making sure. I don't know. Pie is better than cake. I think we can establish that here on the show. It has always been and will always be better than cake. All right.
Yeah, agreed.
So of the pie, of the credit pie.
Yeah.
God, now I want pie because now I'm thinking crust. I'm thinking apple. I'm thinking apple pie. Thanksgiving's right around the corner. I'm thinking pumpkin pie, pecan pie. Oh, Lord. How much of that pie do we want to credit the defense, but then there's got to be a slice of it. You tell me how big it is. But it's the first 3 opponents offensively have not been good.
So I think a decent slice of the pie is the fact that it's Nix, Brissett, and Skylar Thompson and Boyle. But then I think the rest of the pie, which is still, more or less most of the pie, is the defense. And I'm not suggesting that they will be able to replicate this necessarily against Jared Goff or Kyle Shanahan down the line and stuff like that. But for me, Puck, it's what are you seeing with your eyes? And what I'm seeing is more pressure than we've seen in a long time. It's players flying to the football. It's a hitting intensity. It's 2 or 3 defenders running to the ball carrier. So even if the first one doesn't finish the job, the next guy will. it just looks better. I'm watching Tariq Woolen, and increasingly, I just think he might be the best cornerback in the league right now. And to think that we're just a few months removed from laughing at the guy because he was grabbing his groin against the Arizona Cardinals and wondering if they should just kick him to the curb, to think that now he's practically irreplaceable for Seattle. You know, he looks sensational. So when you factor, Jordan Love looks like a totally different player. You know, Jenkins looks like a terrific addition. And when you add all these factors in, Dodson, the linebacker, I mean, like, you just roll off the names, like, it just looks better. So while it's definitely true that they've benefited from weak opponents, weak quarterbacks that they've faced, I feel that most of the pie is the defense, because they just look so much better than they had done for a long time under Pete Carroll.
Yeah, it's just I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Green. I think it was Green last night. It might have been I think it was Tim Hasselbeck on Monday talking about, with Scott Van Pelt, talking about, it was Monday, on Sunday night, talking about Mike Macdonald and the pressure packages, and just saying how it's so unique because he just shows you something totally different pre-snap. You know, and then based on the personnel of the offense and based on the quarterback situation, just based on all of it, then there's this adjustment where you think it's coming from one side, then it comes from a different side. You think 6 are coming, but really he's not really sending anyone. He's only sending 4, maybe he's sending 1. The level of confusion, which, you know, we see on the other side of the ball a lot of times, Rob, right? It's the offense trying to confuse the defense so much. And we've talked about this before, him trying to now confuse the offense of what to do is, you know, I think so far so good during the first 3 weeks. I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from the numbers, back it up. I mean, they're putting up some phenomenal numbers. But to your point, it's going to get much harder here when they face, you know, a much better team here in Detroit. You know, Daniel Jones had a good game this week, but I still think it's Daniel Jones. They'll be tested a little bit better more there. And then I think the real test for them, and this is why it's good to get these weeks out of the way, will, of course, be with Kyle Shanahan and the Niners in a few weeks.
I just wonder, Puck, whether it's luck or judgment, whether the Seahawks appointing a defensive coach with this skill set, with this sort of approach to everything, is going to end up being an inspired move, because we're 3 weeks into the NFL now. It's not week 1 anymore. Like, week 1 can often be a bit of a strange week. We've seen most teams play 3 games now, and even the Chiefs are not this well-oiled offensive machine. Defensive football for them has been crucial. We have Mel Kiper coming on ESPN and bemoaning the approach of using 2 safeties and suggesting it should be banned. I mean, like, but it speaks to the fact that people are noticing that all of a sudden these high-octane offensive passing juggernauts that we're used to seeing in the NFL no longer, it hasn't been the case this season. And you look at the Steelers are 3-0 playing football from the 1980s, and the Seahawks are 3-0, playing with a desire to run the football. Yes, they've got explosive weapons, and Geno's played well, but it's defense. It's running the football, and you run through the teams that have done well so far, and there does seem to be a consistent theme. Running backs seem to be, having almost a renaissance. People are talking about the importance of running the ball again because of the 2 high safety approach, which is going to create opportunities in the running game. It just feels that right now, having that old school defensive background might actually be a good thing for some teams. And I think the Seahawks are benefiting from that. Maybe the NFL is just going through a trend change here, and 400-yard games and 5,000 passing yards, at least for the next couple of seasons, maybe it's not going to be a thing.
Okay, we say renaissance. How do you pronounce it again?
Renaissance.
I think, again, I like the way you say it more. It's better. All right, it's better.
We need a French person on to tell us what the exact correct way of saying it is.
Yeah. Do you know anyone? Is there like a French president of the Seahawks football club? I mean,
well, I should know this because I studied French in in college, and my mum was a French teacher, so I should probably know this. But my French is, I used to go to France every summer when I was a teenager to basically try and learn French.
Yeah.
But I've forgotten a little bit more every single year since then.
Going back to your point, are we resetting ourselves in the NFL? Maybe. I always laugh when it's just, because I think it's playing football that way, what you just described is for some is a cliche, and I think a lot of coaches always talk about, hey, we got to establish the run. I don't think the running back was ever going to go away. I don't think playing tough defense was ever going to go away. Every coach that coaches wants to run the football. And as much as we want to, and I think this is a problem for some of these new age analytic guys that cover football. And I'm thinking of like one guy in particular that stands out. It's Bill Barnwell. And again, I'm not saying that he's talented and all that, but this desire to just get rid of the running back. And for somehow to be like, it's not important anymore. We just got to throw. And that was his whole argument, along with others, about why Russell Wilson needed to cook and Pete Carroll needed to go and all that. And that was years ago, and that's in the past. But running the football and playing defense will always be a recipe for success at any level of football. I don't care if you're playing. I've coached Pop Warner to high school, to college, to the pros. It just is. I mean, when you like that last drive on Sunday, Rob, when you go 98 yards and you dominate on the ground, that is backbreaking. You suck the soul and life out of the defense when you play that way. Much more so than if that was 98 yards and they were dinking and dunking passing. That ain't the same thing. When you line up and blow them off the ball and are picking up chunks of yards and you move down the field, demoralizing.
Well, you're speaking to somebody who was, often a figure of fun amongst an element of Seahawks Twitter about 6 years ago, because I dared to sort of stick up for the running back position and the value of the running game amidst this, wave, this tsunami of just pass every single down, let Russ cook and all of this stuff. And, Pete Carroll was often decried as being a has-been almost because of his constant chatter about the running game. At the Dallas playoff games was sort of like case number one for why this is old-fashioned and why you're not allowed to do that. And I've never really believed that, analytics has clearly got a point in the game. It just felt to me like, I don't know about you, Puck, but I get a bit bored of seeing like these endless statistics that, these graphs that people use all the time, that, this different analytical thing will say this and this other one will say that. Often I think it kind of like, what is the point you're trying to make? You can find a statistic to sort of back it up one way or another. And I do think there's a lot of that going on. What I thought was really interesting was listening to Mike Macdonald saying that, the run game soft. What did he say in the locker room?
Yeah. What did he say in the locker room? I loved it because I never heard that phrase before. The like softening of the game or something.
Softening of the opponent. Like it just, there is something to be said. Like I've never played high-end American football. I mean, why would I? I'm from Rotherham. So, but a lot of the analytics guys haven't either. And it just stands to reason that if you have to defend a really tough physical running game, you are going to be tired out by the end of that game, that it is going to have a physically draining aspect on you. And maybe there's not a way to put that onto a spreadsheet to sort of show what the impact is. And therefore, maybe it's quite easy for certain people to diminish. But it's always been the case for me that if you are able to run the ball with some success, and I always wondered why Seahawks fans were amongst the most vocal with this when we'd all lived through the Marshawn Lynch era. If there was never a greater example of somebody who could take the will of an opponent through blunt force running straight at you. And we have had the quintessential power back that for me should be a first ballot Hall of Famer just because of the impact that he had on the game, both culturally and in terms of the style of running.
Yeah. Sorry, Rob. I jumped on you there because because of those people in that sports media world were force feeding fans that tell them And you've got to throw. That's all. The only way you can win is throwing the ball. It's not. It's just not the way.
Well, look at the last couple of weeks. Like if the Eagles had have run the ball on third down against the Falcons, they'd probably be 3-0 right now. Yeah. If you look at the Cowboys yesterday with their mounting their comeback, they're being really aggressive, going for two very early because the analytics will say go for two straight away. If they kick 2 extra points at the end, they would have had a great chance to go for 2 right on their last touchdown to tie the game. Instead, they need to kick and go try and get the ball back for a field goal. I think there's a lot of overthinking going on in the NFL at the moment. And I think it ties itself in knots sometimes. Like I say, I'm not somebody who doesn't believe in analytics. It definitely has a place within football. But I don't know if it's just because we all saw that it had a major impact in baseball because of the A's. And ever since then, there has been this absolutely desperate desire to try and find the NFL's version of that. And we see it with English football over here with the soccer. There's a growing army of people on social media who are trying to find ways to sort of really emphasize analytics. And like I say, I'm not a non-believer in analytics, but I just think maybe it's become a bit too much, especially within the media.
Well, of course, it's been too much. It always is. There's just this idea that in football now that you can just win without throwing the football. You can throw it all around, the place nonstop, and that's how you win. I mean, the teams that have long sustained success at any level of football have got the ability to run it and run it consistently. That's why it's going to be a hell of a challenge, I think, coming up this week. You're taking on a team that is committed to running the football and wants to run it and wants to run it down your throat and wants to out-physical you. And that can be demoralizing to get beat up. I can't wait to see how this defense reacts to it because it's, and when a team did that to them already this year, they failed against New England. Now, they won the game. So I should backtrack and say that they failed. They failed to stop the running game. Dan Campbell and Detroit are looking at that tape from New England going, if they can do that, and we've got a better passing game, we've got a better quarterback, we'll be able to take advantage of some of their miscues. So I'm fascinated to see, how they respond.
Yeah, well, they've got a better offensive line, Detroit, so far better than New England. So they will fancy their chances of running the ball. They're going to have to be ready for that, Seattle. The good thing is that when the Ravens played Detroit last season, they absolutely destroyed them. It was a total blowout. So that gives you some confidence that Mike Macdonald has got a plan that can handle this particular offensive scheme. Obviously, the Seahawks have gone there the last 2 years and have handled the business. And look, the good news is that Detroit's cornerbacks, their secondary is struggling terribly. It's really bad. Their cornerbacks are really struggling. And Geno Smith has played probably 2 of his best games. It's not probably. Right. He has played 2 of his best games in Detroit as the Seahawks starter in the last 2 years. On top of that, they've lost their second best pass rusher this week. Sam Laporta is day-to-day with an ankle injury. He was, I think, carted off the field yesterday, so he's got to be a doubt for this game too. We saw what Hunter Henry did against Seattle, so not having Sam Laporta would be a big thing for Detroit. But look, it's a great gauge. It felt like it was a gauge yesterday for Arizona to host Detroit, and they didn't get the job done. They only scored 13 points, and they lost that game, and now they're 1-2. I still think there's a lot of people who are very skeptical in the national media and who don't follow the Seahawks as to how good are this Seahawks team. They've beaten 3 teams you'd expect them to beat. They're 3-0, but they need a big win. And if they are to go to Detroit and win that game, if they're 4-0, by next Tuesday, then the kind of reaction pod that we would do for that puck, well, you'd be struggling not to get too carried away, especially with the Giants.
I want to get carried away. I like getting carried away because if they go in and beat Detroit next week, then there's, you just got a feeling they got, they're going to be favored against the Giants. They go to 5-0, and then they're 5-0, and even if they're 4-1. So regardless, they're 4-1, 5-0, and hosting San Francisco. That place is gonna be electric. It's gonna be a zoo on prime time. They're wearing the throwbacks, right? Yeah, I believe they are
against the Niners. Yes.
Yeah. That's just America, and that's freedom, and that's fun. Wearing those things because that's gonna be beautiful on prime time. Al Michaels is gonna be all over. He won't be able to contain himself. It's just gonna be great, and then that's when we're gonna see, how much just you're going to be able to see Mike Macdonald trying to match wits with Kyle Shanahan. And I know they did it last year and all that. But I mean, just the first time is, him being the head coach. And I think the other thing, I was getting kind of lost there, a little tangent. The other thing that just I loved about the game on Sunday was, and I don't understand where this narrative has come from, but there's a lot of people that are down on Zach Charbonnet for some reason. And I don't really understand why. And I don't think I have never heard anyone claim that Zach Charbonnet is as good as Ken Walker. I've never said that. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that. I like Zach Charbonnet. I do know that Ken Walker is better than him, and he is the lead running back. But this weird obsession in this town of bashing Zach Charbonnet is odd to me. He's a good running back. He's a good backup running back. How many other teams would like a Zach Charbonnet right now to be their running back? I don't know. Dallas would. They'd take him. So
I think he's better than that, Puck. I'm maybe a little bit biased because I can remember watching Zach Charbonnet in his penultimate year at UCLA.
Yeah,
and spending the whole season talking about how he was a Seahawks running back. This is the guy. Had a high grade on him, second round grade on him. Throughout that season, was stunned that he didn't declare because he'd already sort of transferred from Michigan and had to wait and then start at UCLA. Come back again, was superb again for UCLA, was talking him up all the time. I thought it was that's the range he should have gone in the draft where Seattle took him. And then you watch him play, and I think the New England game is just influencing people too much in a game where New England just sold out to stop the run. They'd watch what happened the week before. They'd watch Seattle's pass protection be utterly useless against the Broncos and thought, we are going to fancy our chances to have the same kind of impact as a non-elite Broncos defense, and we will just shut down the running game. So they sold out to stop Zach Charbonnet, and Geno Smith won Seattle the game. So they picked their poison, and Geno delivered. That's just what it was. When you watch this game yesterday, Zach Charbonnet is still not getting much help from the offensive line, by the way, and we should probably spend 5 minutes talking about the offensive line. But Zach Charbonnet, when it was needed for him to sort of finish that game, he did. He is not a perimeter runner like Ken Walker, but he showed in this game, in his second touchdown, that he can still do it, and he can get the tough yards, and he is perfectly sized. And I think the fact that, Seattle did not do a good job running the ball last year, and then the fact that he had a tough game against New England is perhaps influencing people here. I think Zach Charbonnet can be a starting running back in this league, and Seattle have got, an embarrassment of riches at that position. And it is great that they can rely on him when Ken Walker's not there. And if you can get them both back, I think that could be a real position of strength for a team that says it wants to run the ball as much as it does.
Yeah. That's I've always viewed it as like a 1 and then with 1B. I mean, I just I've never been caught up on Walker got hurt. Well, don't worry, we got Zach Charbonnet. We fill in, and he'll be even better. I just it's just weird. I was happy for him because like you, I watched a lot of UCLA games, and he was just a stud there with the Bruins. The offensive line, I thought they played better, but there still was issues. Again, the bar is low. So when I say they played better, because the bar was really low, I thought they played better at times, but they still have an Anthony Bradford problem. I was stunned. And now I'm scared because Christian Haynes just must be terrible in practice. He didn't get a snap in the game. And that's a red flag to me, and has to be a red flag to a lot of people.
Okay, I've got a theory on this. I think they have decided that the best, maybe the only way to improve on the offensive line is chemistry. That they think chopping and changing the line all of the time will have a detrimental effect. That you will just end up resetting everything, resetting the time clock again. And if Christian Haynes comes in, he would need probably a month to get up to speed as well. So I think they've decided that they need Tomlinson, Williams, and Bradford to build a relationship, presumably with Forsyth, who's going to be starting for as long as he can, and Cross, and that they need 5 guys, and that chemistry is the key to everything here. Because Bradford's not playing well at all. Like the penalties, the whiffs, everything about it, it's just not working. So I get it. I understand that there may be a possibility that Christian Haynes is so far behind, but they were rotating him in and then they didn't rotate him in. So I think they've come to the conclusion that they're just going to roll with this line and hope that it gets better. Now, that doesn't mean that they have an endless leash. It doesn't mean that Anthony Bradford's going to be able to do this again next week and come out unscathed. You know, they might come to a point where they go, look, we can't keep doing this every week. Like, we've got to make a change. We've got to try and find something. That may well be coming down the line. But I think right now, they just think chemistry is the key, and that's why they're going to stick with these guys. But Bradford's got to be better. Everyone's got to be better. You know, Charles Cross has had a good start to the season, but even he was getting beat off the edge in this game. So, you know, the league's got an O-line problem. The Seahawks have got an O-line problem. It's, you know, I'm spending a lot of my time at the minute watching offensive linemen in the draft, expecting that they're going to have to do something next year. And they probably are. But until then, they've got to find fixes, and the only way to do that probably is going to be more experience playing together and some clever scheming, which I don't think they did yesterday. I wasn't really that keen on the way that they schemed around some of their issues yesterday. They've got to be better than that. If they're getting a problem with pass pro or with the run game, they've got to find a way to scheme around those issues.
There it is. That's the Rob Staton Show. It's brought to you by Superior Linen Service, committed to delivering the highest quality products and service to the greater Puget Sound area. Give them a call, 253-383-2636. Get a free quote today at suplinen.com. Click on that QR code. It's going to take you right there to suplinen.com. You can check out Rob's work at SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Video content, check out the YouTube channel. Rob Staton Football does live shows all the time, post-game shows, shows during the week. You can also follow him on Twitter at Rob Staton. In case you missed this, you want to catch up on the very latest episodes with Rob, check them out on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. Also, please download the Puck Sports mobile app. You can now listen to the show live, on the move, on the go, right from your phone. And, of course, all content up at pucksports.com. Rob, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Puck. Niners 1-2.